Welcome to the 8th episode of the Honeybee Knits podcast. Today is Wednesday, June 14th, 2017. My name is Melissa, and I'm coming to you from Southern Ohio on this very rainy, cloudy day, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because we need some rain. Our grass is starting to dry out a little. If you're a new viewer, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this podcast about knitting and the fiber arts. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for sticking with me. It means the world to me. I say it every episode, and I will continue to say it. This community is beyond belief amazing. I've made so many new friends. I've learned about so many new artists and dyers, designers, sewists. Just amazing. It amazes me. Yeah. So I have a little bit of a different setup today. The table that I normally use to podcast on is very wide. So typically my camera is set up on the back of that table, so it's kind of further away. Today I have it on my tripod, and it's actually closer to me, and my table's at an angle. So if you see me reaching over in this direction, bear with me, but I think it's just nicer because I'll be able to show you things up close. See, look how big my hand is compared to my face when I get so close to you guys. So, places you can find me. You can find me on Instagram as at honey_b_knits. You can find me on Ravelry as Melissa1308, and also in our Honeybee Knits podcast group on Ravelry. There's been a lot of chatter. We have quite a few knit-alongs going on. And I've seen, especially the sock FO thread. If you haven't gone in there, go in there. It's a great way to see other patterns and get some ideas. They're having, I believe we're up to like 60 some entries. So many socks in there, and I just love seeing them all. So thank you so much for participating in that. But if you haven't checked out the Ravelry group, make sure you do that. And then I announced in my last podcast, you can also now find me on Etsy as honeybeenknitsco.etsy.com. I have restocked the shop, and I'll get into that towards the end of this episode. But before we get to all of that, just to give you kind of a summary of what we have today, I don't have any FOs, but like I promised, I know, but it's been a crazy week, and you'll see why. Sorry about the glare on my glasses, it's from the camera. So if that bothers you, I apologize. I'm not exactly sure what to do about that other than wear contacts, which I typically don't do unless it's a sunny day outside, so I can wear my sunglasses. So anyway, today's agenda, like I said, I know I promised some FOs, and I have no FOs. It's been a bit of a busy week. I do have some WIP progress to show you. I have a lot of acquisitions. If you watched my last episode, you'll know that I traveled to Fort Wayne, Indiana this past weekend. And I had a blast, but we'll get into that. I have some Ravelry group news, and that includes prize winners. I drew 3 prize winners for pattern prizes, and I also drew 1 podcast winner, and we'll get into that. And I have a new shop of the week, which I'm really excited to share with you. I have some regular business, some Ravelry questions. Actually, we really don't have a question, but I do have an update from something that I talked about last week. And I also have some shop news and, of course, my weekend review. So, I have a lot of stuff to share. So, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Start with the knitting content. No spinning this week. As much as I wanted to, I didn't get back on my wheel. So, we're going to start with my Joji Locatelli starting point shawl. So, spoiler alert, if you do not want to see the start of the final clue, turn away now. This is in my Honeybee Knits Co bag. This is the largest size that I have, and this is my beehive size, and it's drawstring. I don't have any of these in the shop right now, but I do have some cut out and ready to be sewn. And also, if you're looking for a custom order, feel free to message me either on Ravelry, Instagram, or Etsy. So here it is. So I have the first half of the last clue finished. So what we did is we took these 2 panels that we made and we're joining them with another triangle panel. So as you can see, I still have the bottom panel to do, but so I'm using Sweet Georgia yarns in the Tough Love sock. This colorway is Anthem, Birch, Charcoal, then we have Glacier, and then the dark purple is Acai, I think. We're not going to get into that again. But, yeah, so I was hoping to have this done. Just didn't work out the way I planned. I will for sure have this finished next week. That's a promise. And this time I'm not going to break my promise. So there's that. I'm using my Knitter's Pride Melodies, which are similar to the Knit Pro Zings, which I've gone on a rant about in my previous episode. So if you're interested in sort of a needle review, make sure you go and check that out. And that's it for that. So my second whip that I have, got strings everywhere, is my Father's Day socks for my stepdad. And I said I was going to have these finished. I was planning on working on them a lot on my way to Indiana this past weekend. And I did work on it some, but not as much as I wanted to. And last time you saw this, I just had the cuff done. So, I've got a few rows on that. I'm about 10 rounds from starting the heel. And these for sure will be an FO next week, but I'm not sure if I'll have them to show on the podcast because I will probably be giving these away. But this is the West Yorkshire yarn in the blue tick colorway. So yeah, I think he'll really like these. I did make a boo-boo on the other side. I added a stitch and didn't realize it, and so I had to decrease a stitch, and you can kind of see it right here. And you can tell, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that the back part of the sock. So instead of it being the front, that'll be the back, and this will be the front, so you won't be able to tell when he's wearing it. So those are the 2 items that I plan to work on and have finished this past week. Also, I plan on casting on a new pair of socks, which will be my Desert Vista Dye Works socks for the month of, what are we in, June? So I plan on working on those. And also, I am starting a knit along with a group of friends of mine. If you'll recall, when we went to Kentucky, me and this particular group of girls all got the same colorway and the same yarn. It's Twist Yarns in the Soul Surfer colorway. I don't have it right here in front of me, but it's a beautifully speckled yarn. And I have some more knit along news regarding that later on in the episode, so stay tuned. But the 3 of us are going to knit a Changing Staircases shawl, which is by Tristan, and she is one of the 2 ladies in the Girls in the Yarn Cafe podcast. I was enabled to knit that shawl from the Laura and Alicia from the Knit for Brains podcast. If you've seen their podcast, you know that they've knit probably about 1 million of the shawls, and they are gorgeous. It is the perfect shawl if you're looking for a one skein project that you can use to show off your crazy, wild, variegated, speckly yarns. So I see many of those in my future. But I'm going to start with the Twist Yarns in the Soul Surfer colorway. So we're going to start that tomorrow, and I'm going to include a, well, I guess I'll just mention it now, and I'll talk more about it later. From June 15th to July 15th, I'm going to do another knit along, and this will be a speckled knit along. It can be any item. It doesn't have to be a shawl, as long as you're using speckled yarn. And you have unlimited entries, so anytime between June 15th and July 15th. So that'll be another fun knit along that we can do. Alright, so that's actually all I have for knitting content. I was telling my husband last night, I was working on my Joji Locatelli shawl, and I said, I cannot go to bed until this first part of this clue is finished, because otherwise I have no knitting content this week. And he said, well, why don't you talk about something else? And I said, because it's a knitting podcast, I should probably have some knitting for the podcast. So I think this is when the podcasts that have more than one person podcasting comes in handy, because if you slack off one week, somebody else can pick up your slack. So I feel really bad I haven't had a whole lot of knitting content to show you guys other than acquisitions. And I'm trying, that's one of my goals over the next few weeks, is to just spend some time knitting. I have been sewing like a mad woman, so I'm excited to get back to my knitting. Let's move on to acquisitions. I'm going to start with my small acquisitions first. I put an Instagram post at the end of last week, I believe it was Saturday evening, about some scissors that I've purchased on my yarn crawl this past year in August. And they were just like an impulse buy. They were on the counter, and they turn out to be my favorite pair of scissors that I have. I have a Notions pouch that travels from bag to bag, and I have a million pairs of scissors, and those are the ones that I prefer. And I thought that I lost them, so I about had a heart attack. And I ended up finding them, but I decided to research to figure out what pair of scissors these were, so that I can purchase some more just in case. So I don't remember your name on Instagram, but thank you so much for your help. I posted a picture and asked if anybody was aware of what they were, and they gave me the name of an Etsy shop that sells them, and it's Stunning String Studio. And I believe I have a card. Yeah. So she is Stunning String Studio, www.stunningstring.com, but she's also on Etsy. And I'm not going to show the back of this because it is a 10% off coupon code, and as much as I would like to share that with you guys, I'm going to need it for myself. So, yeah, so she sells Notions, stitch markers, yarn. She has a ton of stuff in her shop. Shawl pins, I believe. So go check her out. And all of her stuff is pretty neon-y and colorful, which I love. So these are the scissors that I'm talking about, and you can get them from other shops. These are called Super Snips. And so they have the silicone safety cover that goes over the top, but it stays attached to the scissors, so that when you need to use them, you just kind of flip that off, and then you have your scissors. And what I like about these is that they're super tiny, but they're super sharp. So they're very easy to get your snips regardless of the weight of yarn that you have. And also the handles are pretty wide. So I love the silicone safety cover because I don't have to worry about poking myself or reaching when I reach down into my Notions pouch. So those scissors I highly recommend. And of course, I got one in each color. So these are the 3 colors that she had on in her shop. So I bought one of each. Funny story about these is my husband was messing with me once, and he grabbed these and he poked me with them. And he poked me rather hard because I think he thought they were so small that they would be super dull and would barely hurt you at all. These are sharp. They have, like, it doesn't hurt if I just barely touch it, but if you actually press down on these, be careful, you could cut yourself. So he felt super bad about that because he was just trying to mess around and he ended up hurting me. So, funny story. The next acquisition I have to share with you also came from a friend of mine on Instagram. She had messaged me right after I had found out, right after my dog was diagnosed with cancer, and I found out that I was probably going to have surgery, and I was having kind of a crappy week. And she messaged me and she told me about these stitch markers, and she knows that I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, and so she thought that it would make me smile to know of a lady who sells these. And let me find her card. Okay, so the person I ordered this from is Chilean Hands, and she's on Etsy. I know she has a website down here. I haven't checked that out, but she is also chileanhands.etsy.com. And in the package, she sent me this wonderful little Harry Potter stitch marker, which will go on my fringe supply bag when I get around to using it. So yeah, so I'm going to show you some of these charms that she sent me. We'll start out with, let's see, this is Harry. and Ron. And we have Hermione. Oops. There we go. And let's see, we have Dumbledore. And Neville. Draco Malfoy. We have, this is one of my favorites, Dobby. I love Dobby, and I love his big old eyes. And we also have Snape, which is another one of my favorites. And I believe this is Sirius. It could be Lupin, but I'm almost positive this is Sirius. When I first got this, I don't know why, but for some reason I thought this was Hagrid, which my husband corrected me on, which when you look at it closer, you can tell it's definitely not Hagrid, but I guess I was just kind of hoping for a Hagrid, but anyway, so if anybody knows exactly if this is, I believe this is Sirius, but if not, please feel free to message me and let me know. And then it also has Voldemort, which looks like a little alien, and the Death Eater. So, yeah, so those made me smile, and they were, I think they were like $11 for the whole set, which is ridiculously cheap, so that was a nice little pick-me-up. And I think because they were coming from, I believe, Australia, it did take a while to get here, but but when they did, I was super excited to open it up. So the next purchase that I made a few weeks ago is I purchased, not a few weeks ago, I guess it's been about a week ago now. I purchased, these stitch markers, and they're actually just charms, but I'm going to make them into progress keepers, and these are going to be included in all of my packages, from here on out when I send out a bag. So these will be turned into progress keepers. I just bought a little bag of them. I wanted something that I could send as a little extra goodie. And I was hoping that they would get here before my first orders had to go out last week, but they didn't. So I'm excited to finally have them to add to my packages. Now I just need to get on it and put them and actually make them. So the next thing I want to show you guys, I seriously teared up when I saw these. So like I said, I went to Simply Sock Yarn Company in Fort Wayne this past weekend with some friends, and I actually met up with one of my Instagram followers, one of my friends on Instagram that I chat with, and I'm not sure that she wants me to put her name out there, so I'm not going to say her name, but I will say, if you're watching, thank you so much. It was so lovely to get to meet you, and so when I got in there, she had purchased the bag for me. So when I showed up, I handed her her package, and she handed me something, which was completely unexpected. And I looked, and they were cookies, and I was like, oh great, this is going to be an amazing treat for the way home, for me and the girls that I was traveling with. And then we went to, after all of our shopping was said and done, me and the girls that I traveled with went and ate at the Acme Bar and Grill. And we were pulling out of our purchases, and I happened to accidentally pull out one of the cookies. And then I saw what she put on these. She made these, guys. Look at this. I don't know. It's the exact same font as what is on my business cards that I showed last week and what's in my new logo. The time it must have took to make these, and she didn't give me one. She gave me 3. And let me tell you, when I saw this, I knew that I had to wait before we could eat these so I could show them to you guys on the podcast. I had to. They are so beautiful. I cannot imagine the time it took to make one of these, much less 3. I wish that she sold them. because I would love to buy some so I could send to you guys. But I think I messaged her and I just don't think that she does that. So maybe one day I'll convince her. But for now, I just wanted to show you guys how beautiful these were. And they've been in my freezer for the last couple days to try to keep them fresh enough to eat. But I almost got shanked on the way home because, not really, but so on the way home, my friends wanted to break one open and eat it, and I told them no, that I'm sorry, that they had to wait because I had to show the podcast. And then when I got home, my husband goes to reach for one, and I was like, what do you think you're doing? No, so I had to hide them from him because he was going to eat them. So, and I'm sure they're delicious, but they're so pretty, I couldn't eat them until I showed you guys. So I'm excited to actually get to try those. I'm sure my husband is. And I might have to have my friends over so we can split one because they're beautiful. Thank you so much. You know who you are. I can't believe the amount of time and effort you put into that. So, so now I am going to go into my acquisitions for Simply Sock Yarn Company. And if you saw on Instagram, I went a little crazy again. I always say that I'm not going to, but it just sort of happens. If you've ever been shopping with me, you'll know I have no self-control when it comes to the yarn and fiber. Let's just get into it. So I'm going to go in order in which I picked them up. So when you first walked in, Vesper Yarns had a trunk show up, and I immediately wanted to try some of them because I know Amber of the Yarn Hoarder purchases quite a few of those skeins, and so I picked up one of her sock yarns, self-striping sock yarns, and this is called Happy Accident, and this is 75% superwash wool, 25% nylon, 430 yards of self-striping goodness. And it says each skein is hand-dyed, every colorway is unique. This is dye lot 16. And so yeah, I loved this. I loved the bright neons, but I like the black and the grays that kind of offset it a little bit. So this is definitely me in a skein. So I had to have this one. So that was the first thing I picked up. The second thing I've picked up, and I have not heard of this yarn company before, but apparently I must be living under a rock because I kept going around saying, oh, I've never heard of this before. And they're like, how could you have never heard of this? So this is Swift Yarns hand dyed, and this is the Lightsaber colorway. And it's just, again, pink, orange, blue, speckles, purple base. It's beautiful. So this is fingering weight, 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon, 400 yards. And this is so soft and squishy. The next thing that I picked up was, I knew that she had Hue Loco there, and let me back up and say that when I went, I had a list, I think, of about 6 dyers that I knew she carried that were indie dyers that I wanted to get some yarn from, and I wasn't planning on getting one from each of the 6. Oop, sorry. I wasn't planning on getting yarn from one of each of the 6, but it just so happened that I did. So here is the Hue Loco colorway that I got, and it is on her tweed, and I've never had a tweed skein of yarn before, so I'm really excited to knit this up. It's tweed sock, 85% superwash merino, 15% nylon nep, and it is fingering weight, 2-ply, 438 yards per 100 grams, and the colorway is Dirty Talk. And I've been wanting some of this for a while, so it's just a gray base with all the neons. And by now you can probably tell that I have a neon problem. So that was the third skein I picked up. The fourth skein, so I knew that Life in the Long Grass was something that I really wanted to try, and I knew that Simply Sock Yarn carried it. But when I was first walking around the store, I didn't see any. I take that back. All I saw was the DK weight, and I'm a fingering weight girl. So I only buy DK weight if I absolutely have a project in mind. So I happened to be looking around, and I found fingering weight. So And I actually let my friend Carrie, who was with us, pick this colorway out because there were about 5 or 6 colorways that I wanted, and had I not asked her to pick one out, I would have been coming home with all 6, which would have been really bad. I would have been sleeping on the couch. So, yeah, so she picked this out for me. So how does this tell you how well she knows me? Because I didn't even say these are the 6 I'm looking at. I said, here is the Life in the Long Grass shells of fingering weight. Pick one out. And this is what she picked. And look at the back. It's got the, oh, so pretty. And I've heard so many good things about this. And it's 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 460 yards per 100 grams. So I'm really excited to get this because I've seen it all over Instagram. The last skein I got, this was actually the second skein of yarn I picked up, but I put it back and I kept walking around and I wasn't going to get it, and I decided to get it. The reason being, and well, let me show you first. This is from Yarn Love. I don't know if you can see that label. Yarn Love. And this is the Unicorn Poop colorway. And neons. Come on. Oh, yeah. It is lightly speckled. The reason why I almost didn't get this is because I did not realize how tightly this skein was twisted. And I knew that caking up yarn and keeping it in a cake, especially if it had nylon in it, is very bad for the yarn because it stretches it out, and then you're not going to have the same elasticity when you go to knit with it. And recently I've been catching up on the Girls in the Yarn Cafe podcast, and they were saying that the tighter a yarn dyer twists their yarn into a hank, so the more it damages the elasticity. So when I picked this up and I felt how dense it was and how heavily twisted it was, I was really worried about this being able to go into socks. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, it doesn't have to be socks. It can be a shawl. So my question for you guys is, have you knit with Yarn Love or something that's similar in density with how it's kind of smushed together? And if so, did you have any problem with the elastic, with the nylon? And another thing I can say is that just from carrying it around, I was hot and excited and carrying the yarn close to my chest, and it did fuzz up quite a bit. It is pretty fuzzy. I don't know if you can see that. So I'm a little worried about putting this into socks. But I think this will make a beautiful color for a shawl. But if you've knit with this, please give me some feedback. I've never used it before, and I'd be interested to know. The last skein that I purchased, I say last, but the last skein that I purchased when we were there the first time was an impulse buy, of course. I was standing in line and my friend basically had to put blinders on me because I kept like, oh, look at this, look at this, look at this, and I just had to stop. But I didn't draw the line at this one. So one of my friends had picked up this skein for another one of my friends because she had told us what she was looking for. And she said, hey, my friend came and she's like, oh, I love it, I'm going to keep it. And my other friend, Carrie, goes, well, can you go look and see if they have another one? Because if so, could you pick one up for me? And I said, me too, please. So, yeah, that's how we ended up with this. So this is a Hedgehog Fiber sock in the Heyday colorway. And if this looks familiar, it should, because, I mean, this is like a lighter speckled version of this. What are you going to do? I debated on not getting one of these because they were so close, but I'll use them. It's fine. So if you're not familiar, Hedgehog Fiber sock is, this is 90% superwash merino, 10% nylon, 100 grams, 400 meters. And so after we went here the first time, so we checked out, and that was the last skein that I had purchased. We went to go eat, And when we were all laying out our acquisitions on the table so we could get a picture, and my friend Elizabeth had, who, by the way, is the new moderator of our group, so join me in welcoming her to that. We'll get into that later, but she was showing me one of the purchases she made, and I was like, I saw those and I really wanted them, but I bet they didn't have a price on them, and I was like, I'm not even gonna ask because they're probably $50. She was like, they're $24. I said, what? $24? That's crazy talk. I said, so at the time we were gonna go to Knitting Off Broadway after lunch, and I said, can we stop by Simply Sock again? And because we were eating right down the street from Simply Sock. And I said, if the line's not long, I want to go in and get one of these. And she's like, yeah, I'll go with you. So funny story, we went back and she had saw that me and two of the other girls from our group had purchased this. And she went in and purchased it too. So I think we're going to do a knit along for this as well. But anyway, the one she had that was $24 that I couldn't believe was this. $24, guys. So this is Knitterly Things, and they are the ones that also have Vesper yarns. And this is the Brilliantly Bold colorway in the Mitten Love yarn kit. So I'm really excited to knit these up. And I also purchased the pattern. I'm going to try to show just the picture and the name. So this is the Chevron Love Mitten by Julia Vesper, and that's what they look like, and I'm really excited to do these. There was a rumor as we were standing in line, because almost everybody had a skein of these, because if you were smart, you asked how much they were, found out they were $24 and bought it. But anyway, so as we were standing in line, a lady said that she had talked to her, and she said that most of the time you can actually get 2 sets of mittens out of this. And my friend Elizabeth had gotten one of the rainbow colorways. And when I went back, they didn't have the rainbow colorway. They had this and one other. And this is the one that the pattern shows, the colorways. So I got this. And we said that we were going to knit a pair up. And if we had half of this left, so if we only use 50% of it, we were going to trade and make another pair. So she'll get a pair of this, and I'll get a rainbow pair, and I'll get a pair of this, and she'll get a rainbow pair. So that'll be exciting. So I'm interested to cast those on and see. I'm anxious to cast that on and see how many yards I can get out of it. So because of so me and Elizabeth were inside of Simply Sock Yarn, and then Michelle and Carrie had decided to also go back in and make a few more purchases. And so by the time we were done with there, Knitting Off Broadway was closed, so we didn't get over to there. But my friend who made the cookies had suggested an ice cream place down the street called Yummy Bunny. And if you have not heard of this or been there, if you go to Fort Wayne, you need to try it. It is so good. And it's unique too. So if you see my Instagram post, and I'll try to put pictures in this episode as well at the end of this episode, but they take a donut, which they call a bun, but it's a donut, and they cut it in half, and they put 2 scoops of ice cream on it and 1 topping. And then they give it to you like a hamburger. So good. I ate the whole thing, which is terrible, and I shouldn't have, but it was so delicious. And I think I got like a mint flavor with sprinkles because I'm a child. I was the only adult there with sprinkles. So yeah, so those are my purchases from this past weekend, and I'm really happy with them all. Now I just need to make some room because I have no more room in the shelf up here. I'll have to try to fit it in my shelf to the right. You guys, that was all my purchases, but I'm not done with acquisitions. So this person was the first person to comment on our Ravelry group in the Plug Your Business thread. She had commented about her podcast, but she also has a Etsy store. And for those of you that may not know, she is Yes That Shelby on Instagram and Ravelry, and she has the Defiant Knitter podcast. And she owns Blueberry Hill Soaps on Etsy. So I had went into her shop to purchase a few things for myself and for the podcast because I wanted to feature her as our shop of the week this week. Let me tell you, I just received this package today and I was blown away. So one of her items that I had purchased, she was actually sold out of, and she messaged me and I told her it wasn't a big deal. But apparently she thought it was because she included a ton of stuff in here that I did not purchase. So I'm excited to show you guys. So the first thing that I purchased for myself was the Black Raspberry Vanilla Soap. And it smells so good. I can't wait to use this. It smells so good. It smells so good. It's beautiful. I can't wait to use this. I love it. My mailbox smelled really good today. So the second item that I had purchased but she was out of was the bubblegum flavor. And I purchased it as a giveaway for you guys. But she actually messaged me and said she was out. And I told her, just throw one in there that's a fan favorite. It's for a giveaway. No big deal. And she sent me this. And this is Lover's Potion Soap. Guys, I wish you could smell this. I'm actually going to keep this. I'm not giving this one away. I may purchase another one in the future for you guys, but this is actually going to stay with me. And the reason for that is it smells really good. It reminds me of Love Potion, which I think she mentioned. Love Spell. Yeah, Victoria's Secret Love Spell. It smells similar to that. Not exactly, but it smells so good. It makes me want fruit punch. So this is actually going to stay with me. So sorry guys. If you want some of this, go out and buy some because it's amazing. And look at that. It looked like a little cherry on top. It looks like a piece of cake. It's beautiful. And then for the mix-up, she sent me some freebies. So these are probably the ones I'll end up giving away. She sent me Autumn is Coming. Smells so good again. This is Fallen Leaves and Pumpkin. So this is the perfect autumn colorway. I might save that for like a Halloween giveaway. And then this one is Lavender Tangerine Mimosa. So, and again, this smells like I could eat this. Like this and this. Like I could drink this and eat this. It smells so good. So you guys, if you're into the artisan soaps, you need to go check her out. Her smells are amazing. I've purchased soaps before from different artisans, like at fairs and festivals, and it's like they smelled good there, but then when you got it home, it was like just a regular bar of Dove soap. Like you couldn't smell the smell anymore. So these definitely, I think, will keep their, especially this one. This one smells divine. I think those keep their fragrance for a long time. Also, I wanted to mention, I wasn't going to mention this, but I'm totally going to. So, there is a new yarn company that I found on Instagram called Sparkling Seaweed. And I had never heard of it, mainly because they hadn't opened their shop at the time. And they plugged my new bag business, my new Etsy shop, and tagged me in it. And that's how I got to know of the shop. And I followed it on Instagram. Well, Shelby sent me these soaps, and she also sent me a note that she is the dyer behind Sparkling Seaweed, which I did not know that because I talk to her on Instagram all the time. I talk to her on Ravelry. So I bought from her on Etsy. So I am so excited for you, Shelby. Congratulations. She sent me, guys, and this is not for giveaway. This is for me. She said I could give it away, but I'm going to keep it. She sent me, she just opened her shop this week. She hasn't had her grand opening. She has pre-orders up of one colorway. But she sent me a one-of-a-kind skein. And this is on her Loch Ness sock, 75% BFL, 25% nylon. I love this. So, remember when I was talking about West Yorkshire yarn and how I didn't really enjoy knitting with it? I just found out that that's BFL. I have a ton of BFL sock bases in my stash that I love. They are not as rough as the Opal and the West Yorkshire yarn. So when I felt this and I looked at it and said BFL, this is not, it is so soft. So then I looked through my stash and I'm like, I've got a lot of BFL. So I guess it just depends on what it's mixed with or what type it is. But I love this. And the colors are so gorgeous. Thank you so much, Shelby. I am so keeping this. And I actually went into her shop after I received this package today, and I purchased 2 of her pre-orders, one for me and one as a giveaway. So I will have, and the colorway is like this. I think she was showing this on Instagram. What she does for these one-of-a-kinds is she basically just uses the leftover dyes from her dyeing process for her other colorways and makes these, which is genius. And it's beautiful. So the one I purchased was actually had just like a darker purple and a darker green, and it wasn't as speckled. But go out and check out her shop. She just messaged me while I've been on the podcast, and she said she's doing her first official shop update on Saturday, and she thinks that she's going to have about 20 skeins up for grabs. So, let's see here. So, if you want, her dyeing technique is amazing. If you want to be one of the first ones to try out her yarn, make sure that you set your clocks for Saturday. She doesn't say what time, but make sure you go out on Saturday and check out her shop, because I know I will be, because I love these colors. So again, thank you so much, Shelby. That was an amazing package. And I was overwhelmed. So, I don't know if you guys caught that, but Shelby is the shop of the week for the Blueberry Hill soaps. So make sure that you go out and check out Blueberry Hill soaps as well if you want some of these beautiful fragrances. So, yeah, and these 2 will be giveaways in giveaway package. Look at that. How does she do that? She put a heart inside of the soap. She's amazing. So talented. All right, so I am going into Ravelry group news. So some of this is going to be repetitive, so I apologize, but bear with me. So we have our year-long sock call going on, and this month it's any socks, or for May, it's any socks knit from May 1st to June 15th. So I will be closing the thread on Friday morning, so make sure to get your socks in there. And you will be entered to win one of the prize packages I showed in my podcast last week. So if you're interested in seeing that, go take a look at my last podcast. Right now we have 55 entries. So thank you guys so much for all your participation. It means a lot to me. And then I will be drawing prizes next Wednesday, the 21st, for the May. And also for the May Knit Along, whips are allowed. So if you started a pair of socks before May 1st, don't worry, just finish it up and throw it in the thread. Also, we have our June sock call, which sock knit along, which I will open up on Friday as well. And that knit along goes from June 1st to June 30th, and that is no whips. So if you started a pair of socks prior to June 1st, I'm sorry, but they cannot be entered into that prize drawing. So any socks knit between June 1st and June 15th can go into both the May knit along and the June knit along. So make sure that if you've knit your socks between June 1st and June 15th and you've already put a photo in the group thread, make sure that when I put that second one up for June, you are also putting it in June as well, so you have another chance to win. Yeah. So, again, I showed my prize packages for May, or you can go check that out in my last podcast. Also, the Joji Locatelli knit along ends June 30th, and I will be drawing prizes on July 5th. The prize package, again, was shown in my last episode, and I think we only have finished objects right now. So there's a good chance that if you hurry up and get those, you have about 15 days left to either start one or finish one, then you have a good chance to win that awesome prize package. So go check that out. This is probably also something you guys have been waiting on. So twice a month I'm going to be doing random draws in Ravelry for pattern prizes, and I will draw randomly from a few different threads, including the whips thread, the questions, and the general chat thread, and also the introduction thread. So make sure that you go out to Ravelry if you are a designer or you have a small business, and make sure you enter your info in the plug your business thread, because those patterns that are in there are going to be my priority for giveaways. So unfortunately we don't have any new patterns that have been entered into the thread. So not really unfortunately, but because it's also cool that you get to pick your own. But I've drawn 3 winners for this week. And all 3 winners, if you contact me through Ravelry or Instagram, doesn't matter, Ravelry or Instagram, and let me know which pattern you would like, up to $7 US value, I will gift you that pattern. So it doesn't matter who the designer is or what pattern it is, as long as it's on Ravelry, and you have a Ravelry username, which all of these do because I pulled them from Ravelry. Get in contact with me and I will gift you a pattern. So the first winner is post number 29, and this is from the introductions thread, and this is Wendy Ray, and that's Wendy from Alamosa, Colorado. So congratulations, Wendy. Get in touch with me and let me know which pattern you would like. The second winner, and this I believe was from the Joji Locatelli Whips. I might be wrong, but I'm almost positive it was Joji Locatelli Whips. And this is or it might just be the general whips thread, one or the other. These next 2 winners came from either the whips thread or the Joji Locatelli whips thread. So that is post number 8, which is Min Knit Shawl, and that is Asia from Seattle, Washington. So again, congratulations, Asia. Get in touch with me, let me know which pattern you would like, and I will get that to you. And by the way, you may not know this about me and my husband, but we are actually planning to move to Seattle in the next few years. It's actually a long-term goal planning, but Seattle is where we plan to spend most of our life and raise our kids. So I'm really excited to meet some people from Seattle, because if you're still there in 2 to 3 years when we plan on being there, maybe we can meet up, you know. And I shouldn't say that because things always change, but this is something my husband and I have been planning for about 2 years now, and it's a big deal because we're going to be moving across country, which is away from all of our family and friends and support system. So it is a long-term goal of ours, but we love Seattle, and it's the type of culture that we want to raise our kids in. So that's one of the reasons why that is our goal to move there. Sorry, that was a little rant, but yeah. So the third winner, which was completely, I promise all of these were random. They were through Random Generator, but I'm really excited that you won because I talk to you all the time on Instagram. And this is Forget About It. And they actually asked a question on the last 2 podcast episodes that I have. So they're very active in the threads. And that's post number 13, and that is Jack from Glasgow, Kentucky. So congratulations, Jack. Get in touch with me. Let me know which pattern you would like, and I will get that sent out to you. Also, since I'm on the subject, last week I had asked for some suggestions for my little bee, because he is my little mascot, and I wanted to name him. And Jack sent me some amazing, hilarious bee pun name suggestions. And I went over them with my husband, and I think we chose one. Ronald Beasley. How funny is that? Harry Potter, it's got to be, and it's a pun, and I love it. So my mascot's name is now Ronald Beasley. So thank you, Jack. That's all from you and your sister, so I appreciate that. So the next item of business in the Ravelry news is make sure that if you have a podcast, you are letting me know on the Ravelry thread. Starting today, I'm going to be choosing a podcast once a month to send a package to give away on their podcast. And I'm not going to show that package on my my podcast because I want it to be a complete surprise for the person that's receiving it. So this is, again, completely random. There are 6 podcasts that have been listed in that thread, and what I did is I went through and I counted them and I assigned each one a number based on when they posted. So I had 1 through 6, and I did a random number generator, and guess who won? Number 1, guess who that is? It's Shelby, and she has the Defiant Knitter podcast. So I know I've talked about Shelby. We talked about her soaps. We talked about her new yarn business. We talked about her Instagram account. So guess what, Shelby? Now you're going to be getting a package from me to give away on your podcast. So congratulations. And get in touch with me. And I might, let me see here. I think I have your address. If your address is the same as the one you sent me the package from, let me know and I'll just send it back to that packet, that address. I plan to have that package out on Friday. If for some reason I can't get it out this Friday, it'll go out next Friday. I apologize for the long ship times. It's just, as you'll see in the weekend review, I've got a long week coming up. So I'm going to do my best to get everything taken care of before next week. But if not, you should have that in your mailbox within the next week or 2. So congratulations. So the next item of business is the coupon codes. So we have Fate's Thread, that was our shop of the week last week. And hers is good through the end of the year, and it's FT First Year 10, and you get 10% off your purchase of $20 or more. She has project bags and stitch markers. We also have the Fresh Pineapple Socks by Baba Yaya, and the pattern is $1 with the code BBYY through June 15th. And we also have the Autumn Air Hand Warmers, which is free with the coupon May Free through June 15th. So if you have not gotten that free pattern, go out and get it. And those expire tomorrow, so make sure that you do that today or whenever you watch this. The next one is Handmade by Zahn, and she has Thank You 10 on your next order for 10% off. So those are the coupon codes that we have. So I don't have any Ravelry questions this week. There weren't any new questions in the thread. But I did have somebody, and actually I think it was Shelby. Don't quote me on that. It might not be Shelby, but I think it was. And she put a nice little thing in there because last week I was talking about Yarn Cafe creations. And I just want to say real quick, when I watch a new podcast, I start from the very first episode and I watch all the episodes up until the current one. I've never had a podcast that I started watching that I didn't like and continue to watch. And I'm kind of weird that way. So when it comes to TV shows, say it's been a couple years since I've seen the TV show, I can't just pick up where I left off. I've got to go back and rewatch all the old seasons. I did that with Grey's Anatomy recently. So I don't know why, but it stresses me out to go. I'd rather have a recap and I like to know what's going on. So I always start with the first episode and go forward. The only time I didn't do that was, nope, I've always done it. So this past week and a half, I've been watching The Girls in the Yarn Cafe, and I think I'm on episode 12. Whatever the first episode, they have like the espresso cup where they collaborated with another podcaster. I'm on the episode after that. So I hadn't quite gotten to all of the information about their shops and about the grandmother shop. So somebody went into the thread and they said that if anybody was wondering about Yarn Cafe Creations and Dragon Horde Yarn, it's Christy's mom, which is also Tristan's grandmother, that also sells yarn at crystalskieshanddyed.etsy.com. And she says she believes it's also Christy's sister that does hand dyeing too, and she is ambersyarn.etsy.com. I didn't know her sister dyed as well. And it says it's a whole family affair, and they are just as talented as the Yarn Cafe girls. So if anyone reads this, then you should go check them out, and I 100% agree. I did check out Crystal Skies Hand Dyed. I have not checked out the ambersyarn.com. But I will do that. So just kind of a little correction on not really a correction, but to expand on what I was talking about last week in the podcast section, if you're interested in that. Yeah. So that's all I have for Ravelry questions, and so we're on to shop news. So I did a shop update yesterday, and I have some bags in the shop if you want to go check them out. My Baby Bee bags, I've shown it before, but it's a 1 skein project bag. It's about this big by this tall, depending on if you get a drawstring or a zipper. The zippers are a little taller. The drawstrings are a little smaller because when you pull them, they kind of decrease, they shrink a little bit. But the drawstrings, I would say, are perfect for one if you do 1 at a time socks. If you do 2 at a time socks, you want to get the zippered bag. But you should definitely go check those out. I have quite a few different prints and combinations, and those are only $15. So they're a lot cheaper than the, they're about $10 cheaper than the Queen Bee bags, which is the ones I had in my shop last week that are 3 to 4 skein project bags. Or no, I'm sorry, 2 to 3 skein project bags. So then, the other bags that I have in my shop are actually my worker bee bags, which I didn't have a prototype of last week. But they are 1 to 2 skeins, possibly 3 skeins. I think 3 skeins would fit in there perfectly. But they're basically going to be your 2 at a time socks, your shawls. They are perfect for like the Genesis wrap by Lolo Did It, that kind of stuff. So, trying to see, yeah. So if you're interested in one of those 2 sizes, I have them in both drawstring and zippered bags in a bunch of different prints. So go out and check out my Etsy shop. As of right now, I think I've only sold 1 of the batch that I put up yesterday. So there should be plenty more out there because I think I had close to 18 bags. So I did a lot of sewing this week because I sold out last week before my podcast even aired. I think I had 1 or 2 bags left after my podcast aired, and I felt really bad because I noticed I got a lot of views after my podcast and my shop was empty. So if you're interested in those sizes, you can go check those out. If you're waiting on a Queen Bee bag or a Beehive bag, I know the Beehive bags I haven't had in the shop yet, but I do have 2 or 3 Beehive bags that I'm getting ready to make and a couple Queen Bee bags. But if you don't see something in the shop you want, please message me and let me know. I've taken 4 custom orders so far, and I'm more than happy to do that. Right now, I'm just trying to get in my groove and figure out what you guys like because I know what I like. My favorite bag is the Beehive bag, and that's because it can hold a sweater quantity, a blanket quantity, or it can even be a bag where you throw in multiple projects. I used it when I went to Kings Island last weekend. I put my knitting in there, I put our cell phones in there, I put a pair of flip-flops because I was wearing my tennis shoes and I knew I was going to go on the water rides. I wanted my flip-flops. So I put my flip-flops in there, I put my wallet in there, I put my husband's keys in there, and I actually, at one point I had my niece's beach towel in there. So it's the perfect size for if you're looking for an all-purpose bag. I'm trying to think too, and my second favorite is the Baby Bee bag because I knit a lot of socks and I like to have the small little bags to carry around. I don't want to have to carry around a big bag, or like if I'm going to work and I'm taking my laptop bag, I want a small bag that I can fit in with my laptop. So it's perfect if you're looking for small project bags for knitting on the go. My other 2 bags, like I said, are your standard size shawl and sock bags. So like I said, if you're looking for something in particular, please feel free to reach out to me. And even if you're not planning on purchasing, I would love to know your guys' opinion on what type of bags you prefer, just because I want to make sure that my time is being spent sewing bags that other people are going to want. The reason I started this shop, again, I mentioned last week, was because I learned to sew and I was making a ton of project bags, and I'm not going to use that many project bags. So, yeah, it's just been a lot of fun, and I want to continue the momentum. And again, thank you all for your support. It means so much to me. I couldn't believe I put 12 bags in my shop, and by last Friday I had sold 14. So I sold all the ones that I had plus 2 custom orders. So yeah, so thank you. So if you were here for the knitting content, that's all I've got for you today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week. If you're interested in week in review, I'll just do a quick rundown of how my week's been. So stick around. So I'm going to start out with last Friday. My dog kind of took a turn for the worse last Friday. She has been going downhill pretty rapidly. She's not too, I don't want to get too detailed, but she's not to the point where we need to make a decision at this time, but we know it's coming, and it's just sad because I think both of us were kind of hoping that we weren't sure that neither of us is ready to say goodbye, and I don't think we ever will be. But we've never dealt with something like this before, so we're not exactly sure at what point enough is enough. Right now, her quality of life is still there. We know that when she has, basically, when her quality of life is gone, we know that at that point, we're definitely there. At this point, we're more worried about, we have a list of symptoms that is associated with her type of cancer, and there's early stage, late stage, and crisis. And she meets pretty much all of the late stage symptoms. So we're worried about her going into the crisis stage because we obviously don't want her to suffer and go through some of those traumatic experiences. But at this time, she loves going on walks. She's no longer eating her dry dog food. I say that, but she finally did eat some yesterday, but she was not eating anything. And I've said before that we've had trouble getting her to eat, but she was at least trying to eat her dog food at least once a day. So we've gotten the cans of Alpo, and she gets excited about eating those. She doesn't play. She hasn't played since probably last Thursday. She had a really bad day on Friday. She had 2 accidents in the house. And she had an accident yesterday. But otherwise, she's just been really tired and laying around and not really wanting to move. She's been, this is extremely weird because she's been very, very attached to me. And I've said this before, but it's becoming to the point where she's clingy to me. Like, if I walk out of the room, she freaks out. Which is weird because she, like I said, she has a stronger bond with Jason than she does with me. And I've always had a stronger bond with Izzy, our other dog. So I'm not exactly sure. I guess maybe I comfort her. I'm not sure. So anyway, Friday was really hard. I almost didn't go on Saturday again because I was worried that Jason was actually going to have to take her to the emergency vet because Friday was so bad. And we stayed up with her through the night. I got about 3 hours of sleep. I think I went to bed at like 3:30 in the morning and woke up at 6 to go to Fort Wayne. So we stayed up with her. She seemed to be better. She was doing better, and the next morning she was doing okay while I was getting ready. So Jason just told me to go, that she would be okay. So I went. She had an okay day while I was gone. I had a blast in Fort Wayne. Like I said, we went to Simply Sock Yarn. We went to the Acme Bar and Grill, and then we went back to Simply Sock Yarn, and then we went to Yummy Bunny ice cream. So it was a lot of fun. I love hanging out with this group of girls. I love going on trips. They're doing the yarn crawl in August, and they're trying to talk me into it, but I've already promised myself and my husband that there will be no yarn crawling for me this year. Main reason for that is when I've gone on the yarn crawl the last 2 years, and both years I went to all the shops and I'm talking about the I-75 yarn crawl. So the first year I went, there was only 18 shops, and I was able to visit 17 of them, and that was because one of them had weird hours that didn't correspond with my work schedule, so I couldn't go to that one. Last year, somebody else purchased the rights to the yarn crawl, and they grew it. They went up through Michigan and down through Kentucky. So before, it was just mainly central and southern Ohio. Central down through southern Ohio. Actually, there were some northern shops too. So last year, there were 39 shops, and they stretched all the way from Michigan down through central Kentucky. And I went to all 39 shops last year. I took 4 days off of work. One day I traveled with a friend. The other 3 days I was by myself. And when I'm on a yarn crawl, I actually feel really, when I go into these shops, I always feel obligated to purchase something, even if it's something small like $5. So when you're going to 49 shops and you multiply that by a minimum of $5, it gets very expensive. And if you take half of those shops and you multiply it by $20 to $30, which is what I typically spend in a shop, It's super, super expensive. So, and I found that a lot of the yarns I purchased were not yarns that I even really would go for. They were pretty and I liked them, but they're not something that is my priority list to knit, and I have a lot of yarns. So, I'm not doing the yarn crawl this year. I would rather take and I'm not going to say how much, but it was a lot. I'd rather take the money that I spent and saved up for the yarn crawl, plus the gas that I spent driving back and forth, because I did come home every night. So I drove up to Michigan. I came home to Southern Ohio. The next day I got up early and drove up to Central Ohio, came to Southern Ohio. The next day I got up early and went with a friend all the way to the middle of Kentucky, and we worked our way up. And then the next day I did the Southern Ohio shops, which included the Cincinnati and Dayton shops. So it was a lot of gas money, it was a lot of travel time, and I would rather take that money and put it towards indie dyed yarn, whether it be yarn festivals, like Wool Gathering is coming up. I enjoyed the Kentucky trip. I enjoyed the Simply Sock Yarn trip. And the Kentucky trip and the Simply Sock Yarn trips are trips that I normally wouldn't have been able to do if I was saving up for the yarn crawl. So I actually think I enjoyed these experiences much more. I've been with a big group of people, and I've gotten yarn that I prefer to have over the yarns that I've gotten on the yarn crawl. So anyway, so they're trying to pressure me into going on the yarn crawl, and I'm not doing it. So there's that. But anyway, I would love to find some more festivals that maybe there's a trip involved that we can go to, either for this year or next year. So there's that. So that was pretty much my weekend. Sunday I spent all day sewing, trying to get bags ready for my shop update. And then Monday I had my doctor's appointment and I met with my surgeon. My surgery is scheduled for next Thursday, which is June 22nd. I don't think I really went into details about this, but I know I mentioned I have to have my gallbladder taken out, which in the big scheme of things isn't that big of a deal. It's an outpatient surgery. I'll be home probably 6 to 8 hours after my surgery is completed. And I'll only be off work for about a week or two. So the main concern that I have at this point is that when they did blood work a few weeks ago, when they were first diagnosing me, my liver enzymes were elevated. So when I wasn't aware of this, but they did 2 ultrasounds. The first one, I thought was for my gallbladder. But then, and so I thought my gallbladder was fine after the first one because they said that my ultrasound was fine. And then I had to go get a second ultrasound. And that's when they said I needed to have my gallbladder taken out. And so it turns out that on my first ultrasound, they were actually looking at my liver. And they did find some things that were concerning. So while they're in there taking out my gallbladder, they're going to do a liver biopsy as well, just to make sure that everything's okay and that there's not additional testing or surgeries that are going to be needed. So I'm just crossing my fingers, hoping all's well with that. Yeah, so that's how my doctor's appointment went. I should be able to, I'm going to podcast next week for sure. It's the day before my surgery, and then I'm thinking that I will be healed enough to podcast the week after, but we'll see how that week goes. So I plan on getting a lot of knitting done in that time, so I should have lots of stuff to show you guys. Other than that, the things I've been watching, Orange is the New Black came out. Me and my husband have been binge watching that. I think we have about 4 episodes left. That tells you how much we've been watching recently. And then again, podcasts. I've only been watching The Girls in the Yarn Cafe. I'm hoping to get caught up on that because I want to start Shelby's podcast next. So yeah, so that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me. If you have any questions, feel free to go out in Ravelry and put those out there. And if you have any questions that you don't want publicized, feel free to message me and just let me know that you would prefer that I not talk about it on the podcast. If you're a designer, a podcaster, or a business owner, make sure you go out into the podcast thread and plug your business or podcast so that I know about it. Yeah. And overall, I love getting your messages and talking with you guys, so feel free to reach out for anything. So thank you guys so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.